There's a new carbon tax coming on July 1st, and you didn't even know about it. Ladies and gents, welcome back. The price of life in Canada, the cost of living has gone up exponentially over the past 8 years under Justin Trudeau's government. The balancing of the budget never happened. And guess what? We're all paying more out of our own pockets for this. And in this time, we have been seeing increases in taxes across the board. They don't want to call them taxes. They'll call them levies or fees. This new one is called regulation. And let's just get into this. Lily from the Toronto Sun reports on this one. Trudeau's second carbon tax to cost Canadians big time. These charges are supposed to be about lowering Canada's carbon emissions, something that hasn't happened. And I don't think is going to happen. There's Trudeau there. Justin Trudeau's second carbon tax set to take effect in July 1st will soon be costing Canadian families more than $1,000 a year. You didn't even know about this, did you? It's unbelievable. The analysis also finds that the clean fuel regulations, as they're calling them, also known as Trudeau's second carbon tax, will hit lower income families much harder. Since lower income households generally spend a larger share of their income on transportation and other energy intensive goods and services compared to the higher income households, on average, the clean fuel regulations will have a greater impact on these households, says Yves Guilbeault. The clean fuel regulations are part of Trudeau's government's overall plan to reduce greenhouse emissions. While the government doesn't describe the regulation as a tax, the effect of the regulation is the same. A fee is levied by a government for a policy reason. Absolutely is a tax, just like your new higher Canadian pension plan contributions, your unemployment insurance contributions, they went up. You're not getting more out of it. You're just paying more for it. These are taxes that are levied on people. But hey, what's Trudeau doing? Well, he's not really hanging around here much. He just wants to go over to Korea and show how short their leader is. We're not sure what's going on there. I'm sure that'll come out. But Pierre Poilievre is in the House of Parliament objecting to this as we speak.
Just yesterday, the finance minister said we should believe the parliamentary budget officer. What did he say? He revealed that the first carbon tax will cost 41 cents a litre. And now that there's a second carbon tax of 17 cents a litre, and then when you add the HST on those two taxes, you get a total new tax increase of 61 cents a litre.
You heard that right, a tax on a tax. So these are regulations, these are levies that are being put on fuel taxes, and then they're adding the HST, GST on top of this tax. So you're getting taxed on a tax. This is the Trudeau government here.
$2,000 a family. How are Canadians going to be able to pay their bills after this new and latest Liberal tax hike?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to quote from the Parliamentary Budget Officer's own analysis, which, and I quote, does not attempt to account for the economic and environmental costs of climate change. He's looking, the Parliamentary Budget Officer is looking at one side of the ledger, Mr. Speaker, without looking at the other side of the ledger. And we know that climate change is already costing Canadians billions of dollars every year. In fact, Mr. Speaker, tens of billions of dollars every year.
In carbon taxes. Yeah, that's correct. If you don't know who this is Stephen Guilbeault. He is the Minister of the Environment. Here's a picture of him in his orange jumpsuit when he was being arrested for scaling I believe it was the CN Tower in Toronto for Greenpeace, shutting it down. This is the idea of this organization, Greenpeace. It's a political organization that masks itself as an environmental group that's pushing for massive reforms on people's lives and greater control from the federal government. But here he is continuing to go on about what he's saying there.
Of course, if you're the Conservative Party of Canada, you don't believe in climate change and you don't care that those costs to Canadians. But unfortunately, facts are facts, Mr. Speaker, and those costs are real to all Canadians.
Well, you just said that they're
the Honourable
beliefs.
Leader of the Opposition.
climate costs are real, but they will not be reduced as a result of this tax.
That's right.
And so the minister's argument leads to a dead end. The parliamentary budget officer said carbon tax 1 would cost 41 cents a litre. Now carbon tax 2, 17 cents a litre. And then they want to tax the tax on the tax by putting HST on top of all that. So it's going to be 61 cents a litre in carbon taxes. We already have 1 in 5 Canadians skipping meals because they can't afford the price of food. How many people are going to go hungry when this government imposes this tax hike?
Absolutely. So this is absolutely true. Canadians' food banks are being used and utilized at record numbers. Pierre Poilievre also putting out there on Twitter with Trudeau's sneaky second carbon tax. And it is sneaky because, like I said, you didn't even know about this going into this. You'll be paying more at the pump for everything and for everything else. Like, don't get this mistaken. Everything that you pay for is brought to you on a truck. And you're paying this carbon tax in the cost of prices going up because of this. So it shows here Trudeau's second carbon tax cost per liter. So the first carbon tax is 41 cents. The carbon tax 2, 17 cents a liter. Total cost 58 cents per liter. And then, of course, you put the GST on top of that. Goods and service. These are the goods and services that we're getting this summer. Get ready to pay Justin Trudeau's second carbon tax on top of the first. It will be a total of $2,315 per family. What an average family will pay for Trudeau's second 2 carbon taxes. These are now the 2 carbon taxes together, and that's what we're going to be paying. Now, Stephen Guilbeault obviously jumping back in there on Twitter. This just isn't true. The figures are massively overestimated for a program that is designed to have no immediate effect on the prices for Canadians. This is just priceless. The road to hell is paved in great intentions, is it not? What are things designed for, and how does it actually work out? This is the law of unintended consequences. Maybe Trudeau knows a bit about that. Here he is back in 2014 talking about the federal budget.
In this economic climate, how committed to a balanced budget would you be right now? Would it worry you to go into deficit in this current climate to, as you say, put more people to work?
The commitment needs to be a commitment to grow the economy, and the budget will balance itself.
Yeah, how did that work out? Absolutely, how did that work out? We're living in a time now where the finance minister of Canada was refusing to answer the question, how much money are we paying for this debt? How much are we servicing this debt? Stephen Guilbeault goes on Twitter to say these figures are false, and Pierre Poilievre knows it. Coming from a party that doesn't believe in climate change, is climate change a factor? Or is it something that you need to believe in at this point? And has no plan to cut pollution. We can get into pollution versus emissions after, but cut pollution and create jobs in a cleaner economy. We shouldn't be surprised he prefers preying on people's fears and peddling disinformation. Now that sounds familiar. What kind of fears have been peddled on us over the past, maybe 20 or so years? Have we had any fears peddled on us? You either go with what we want to do or we burn. We're all gonna burn in fiery lakes of hell. This is the for coming from a guy who says that if you talk about the economy, you're peddling fear. Absolutely. Is there fear that is being peddled at people when we talk about the economy, Mr. Guilbeault? There is no planet B, these protesters say. This is the fear that has been surrounding climate change for some time. And this all has to do with, and don't get me wrong, we all love the environment and we all want to make sure that we can clean up the environment. And it's true that in reality, in the real world, as nations get richer, they actually care more about the environment. This is just a natural phenomena with the human race. As people are less worried about just feeding and housing and clothing themselves, they start to look around and look at the environment and they say, hey, maybe we should clean things up. But this is not about that. This is about CO2, atmospheric CO2 to be precise, and talking about how the levels of atmospheric CO2 will doom us all to doom and gloom. Well, we can look at some of the statistics. We're currently at what they say is too high, 450 parts per million, and the atmospheric CO2, which is up about 100 parts per million from about 150 years ago, before the Industrial Revolution, which was actually an all-time low on Earth. We're told that if we go above 500, it is gonna burn the planet. But let's look at historic levels of atmospheric CO2. This is the average current period, the dotted line at the bottom, and you can look back through history at the different times when CO2 levels were at their different peaks and different amounts. We go back to the Jurassic period, where there was a massive amount of large animals all over the planet, and what is this? We're about 2,000 parts per million. You go back to the Cambrian explosion. That's right, when all life happened, not the end of the world, the beginning of life on this planet Earth. We have almost 6,000 parts per million. And, well, if you start looking at the record, and this is what's happening, more people are paying attention to this and saying, hey, is this what's really happening? Because you're giving us a lot of fear there's a lot of this going around. Here's average global temperatures compared to compared to atmospheric CO2 throughout history. There doesn't seem to be much of a correlation there. Now, what is there to believe in? Now, this is a thing. Well, you talk about believing in the science. Well, the science proves itself or it doesn't prove itself, and that's actually what's going on. Historically, we have a lot of fear going on. United Nations, a senior UN environmental officer says entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if the global warming trend is not reversed by the year 2000. This was written back in June 29th of 1989. So, ladies and gents, does it make you feel gooder to do this? I don't know. A lot of us think that maybe this is a con act, maybe brought on by a con man. But hey, let you make your own comments, or let you have your own comments on this one in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about this whole scenario of paying more money to fix the weather in Canada or around the world. I think if they really had a big issue with with emissions, they would be going after the biggest emitters, China and India. But hey, that's just me. That's my opinion. You can leave yours in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.